Do you feel that it changed you when your mum passed?
That was very hard. After my fiancé died, my dad died. After, the drugs and everything, I lost my best friend, and I've had 18 miscarriages.
Was there a particular point that you feel like you were at your lowest?
April 1st of last year, it led to me trying to kill myself. Everybody took their swords out at once, and I could still stand.
Where a lot of people may have given up, you've chosen to put your foot forward and you're actually helping other people, and it's so admirable what you're doing.
You wouldn't be talking to me now if I didn't have the support of my church family, of my adopted family, that have totally helped me bounce back from being in a coma last year. How was I going to get out of this? And the only thing I can say that helped with that was
Hello, Emily. How's it going?
Hello, Dan. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. Can you just sort of give us some background about where you're from?
The South. I was raised in Georgia in the United States, and I traveled back and forth between the Southeast region until I ended up moving to Auburn to get away from some abuse in the family. My mom died when I was 9. My dad married. My stepmom wasn't great. So I got emancipated when I was 15. I raised myself since then. But growing up, I was passed around to a lot of family members. My parents had me in their 40s. So, my sister is 27 years older than me. So that creates a very big divide with that. So my childhood was pretty much, you had to make your own fun. And I realized that I was watching my parents grow up too. And that helped me not feel so neglected or hurt. It's like I just knew from a young age that I was going to use it when I got older to help others who felt alone, and that kind of atmosphere. Yeah.
I got you. So you said you were growing up in the South initially. Was there some joy there? Did you have some fun as a kid?
I worked and cleaned and took care of other people in my family, and I really didn't start getting out and having my own fun until I got my first apartment, and I didn't have to be under the typical Southern Baptist, no tattoos, you must have kids, get married, you must bake. Nothing wrong with that. I'm, traditional and unconventional, but the women in my family, we weren't supposed to go to college. We weren't supposed to get educations. We were supposed to make babies in my family, and I didn't want to do that. But me and my sisters having a different father, my dad gave me a chance to come and live with him. And I had some trouble fitting in. I was a big culture shock. I grew up in rural or urban cities, having to fight daily to get to school. And then when I came to Auburn, it was like a complete culture shock being around people that you didn't have to watch your back over. So every transition I made didn't really round itself out until I realized that, I had to be, in order not to be a hypocrite, I had to be hip to quit my own bullshit. Like I really had to be like, all right, you were thrown into life. There's a reason for this, but you can't take everything badly.
Did you think growing up in the South, like your life was normal? Did you have friends to compare your life against, or did you feel like something was off right away?
I felt like something was off right away. The friends that I did have, we had like our, the shoegazers, the kids that wore black, the kids that got picked on. Those are my people. Very much so. And we helped each other get different perspectives. After a while of moving around, I got used to it, and I was able, I guess, about my sophomore year, I was able to finally walk around and be able to talk to everybody. And that was a good feeling. It helped me greatly with, I did have some behavioral problems, I lost a lot of family and went through a lot, but I guess I'm really glad that I was born with the stuff to get me through that on my own and not to internalize it and to feel like I was the victim.
Do you remember how you felt when your mum passed?
When my mom passed, I was 9. I felt it was weird. She raised me by herself and she had mental problems and she had been trying to get my sisters to take her to the doctor for a long time. They didn't believe her and I found her with a stroke. And 6 weeks later, she never came home from the hospital. She had pancreatic cancer and she died. And after that, it took some trust with adults. But when my mom died, I knew that she wasn't going to be suffering or misunderstood. I knew that the life that she lived, she was happy with to a point. And she always told me that as long as I keep a narrow head on my shoulders and I look ahead and don't look behind, that's probably some of the best advice she gave me. And she's still with me. I fight for my rights and rights for people like how my mom passed, the stigmas they get put on people. So I carried her with me when I go and, give testimonies or go and speak at AA or NA or whenever I go to battered women's shelters and try to help people feel less like the world has just singled them out. These hardships happen so we can put on that armor in this world, especially when the world has become something that, zeros and ones have replaced most of the X's and O's that we're used to.
Right. Do you feel that it changed you when your mum passed?
It did. It did. I think everything, after my mom was the first thing that I had to go through. And I didn't cry. I accepted that she was sick. It changed me. Uh, it was my first big death, but they put me in therapy because they thought it was odd that I was happy she wasn't hurting. I didn't cry. And it made me, if I'm going to have parents that had me later in life, I needed to have that kind of like gut instinct that this is okay. They're going to be here with me my whole life. Like I didn't lose anybody. I gained a celestial army of guardians. That's how I looked at it when I was younger. When you're losing your grandparents, I lost my grandmother a year after my mom, my granddad, most of my aunts and uncles, my father, and a fiance. And just from my mom's death at the age of 9, I was able to help myself through some of these things. And when I didn't do well, like I knew my mom and my grandmother's prayers were still working for me. And I just didn't want to take it badly. I seen too many things growing up about how, especially being in a closed-minded, very racist family, it's really hard on women. A lot of what not to do to people, just giving people an option to even make their own choice was something that, me stepping away from my sisters, we still don't talk because of that, because they feel like I got to do what I wanted to do when really I just didn't want to do what they did.
Just so I can understand some of the timeline. So you moved to Auburn, and then talk to us about Auburn. Some of your first impressions there, and who you were living with.
I went from when mom died, stay on my dad. Then I lived with my sister for a while till he changed jobs to Auburn, and then I came to Auburn from my sisters. Auburn was supposed to get me in a better education, get a better education, Uh, Play sports, be in a environment that I've never been used to, where there wasn't a high crime rate. Where living in a university town, my dad was hoping that I would see that, and it'd be so different from what I grew up in that I would just catch that like a fire, and just go for being successful. But when I say that worked out the way I think my dad wanted it to, I mean, when he died, he said that he was never disappointed in me. It's really hard to grow up with everything that I've been through and to do everything everybody else's expectations of what they wanted of me. Living up to expectations. So I moved to Auburn. It was, wow, we have a smart kid here. I've never heard that really before. We have, I was good at, athletics, and I didn't know that before, but I still felt out of place. Uh, it was hard. I didn't want to start a new school with all these advantages and have to talk about my mom. And people ask, about my mom, telling them that she died. I hated being that person for a while. I felt like I got a lot of people's like pity, and that led to me not handling that properly at a young age, moving to Auburn, 2 years before I'm emancipated. It was just a lot.
How many years were you there before your dad passed? And sort of talk to us a little bit more about how you emotionally dealt with that.
Um, it became emotionally hard when my dad got back with my former stepmom. She started working at my schools as lunch lady. She would tell my teachers I didn't have money on my books, and I would, and she wouldn't feed me at school. She was abusive to me as a child, and when they got back together, and that's when my dad decided that, hey, you've been through all this. Um, and that's when I got emancipated at 15. Well, I went when I was 15 in front of the judge. I got emancipated when I was 16. My dad helped me get a place, and he basically raised me off this philosophy of, you're going to go through hardships that most people aren't at your age. I will help you get a place. He set me up with an apartment. I'll help you, learn about balancing money, because I got survivor's benefits when my mom died. And he said the best I could do for you is to see how you're going to do in life and try to be here for you while I can. And that's when we had the talk, before I got emancipated, that, being born late into my parents' lives, that, eventually it will be me one day. And that ended up being true with my family. A lot of them had passed away.
And how many people were in Auburn? Was it obviously your dad was there? Who else was in Auburn?
My fiance Keith, he's later in my story. He killed himself on Auburn campus. That was very hard. I lost my best friend. Um, just lost a lot. I got one aunt left. Two of my aunts on my dad's side have died. My grandparents have died, and I've had 18 miscarriages. So now I'm trying to get CASA certified to, adopt like a foster kid, go to a ball game, go to a play, go to the court hearing with them. I'm trying to, I finally grew up to, if I talk to my sister or anybody in my family, I'm a failure. But, like, I'm the person I needed for kids when I was growing up. So, I love doing art with my friends' children. I love setting up things in the community. And I try to work from a place of love. And I think I talked to you the first time, and I was telling you about all this, and you're like, wow, this is a lot. Like, I wrote down a pros and cons list, and I just saw pro cons. And I remember, like, I was telling you that to me, that meant that there aren't any cons. It's just, it seems that way until you figure out that it's just the other side.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like a choice between love or dragging yourself through it. And it's, everybody, is hard on themselves at times, but a little bit of grace, everybody could use more of that. Yeah.
I mean, you've been through so much just in that short conversation there. There's a lot to unpack, but so you're at Auburn. Talk to us about what happens next in your life, the next important phase of your life that kind of shaped you as a character. What came next for you?
After Keith, after Dad died, after, uh, the big poignant ones, to be honest, I fell into addiction, and I'm proud to say that I've got myself through that. Um, Addiction was, I really had to, I don't know why I went there. I went there to run away from me. That's what I said. I know why I went there. I went there because I had a me problem. And it took me battling through that and having to do these things alone is why I advocate so hard online to help other people. I know by the grace of God that I'm here, or as God as many people may see it, but I also know that it was so hard for me that I just recoiled. I was able to stop. I lost my parents. I couldn't have a family of my own. I didn't have money. I was bounced around from schools. I didn't have much of an education, and a drug problem too. It was starting to check off the boxes statistically that I didn't want. So my goal from that point on was to check off the ones that nobody thought would be possible, that somebody could make it through all that.
So first of all, what were you addicted to?
It was methamphetamines. It was the lack of education I had and fear all wrapped into I had to get 36 hours out of the day and I was going to wrong all the things that I had slacked off out of my life and I was going to do it. And when I realized that that was going to cost my health, and it wasn't worth it, getting sober, was probably the best thing. Yeah, of course, it was the best thing that happened to me in a lot of ways, but doing it on my own and isolating from my friends, calling them saying, hey, I woke up and I don't even know what I'm in withdrawals from. Don't talk to me for a year. And taking off and really putting myself on the street. I didn't want to steal from my friends. I didn't want to see what I saw in my family. And I came back and I just went to everybody's door and I did an inventory of not just addiction, because I swear I wish that I could just make everybody feel the way that I did when I knew. I had a moment where I had drugs in my hand and I had searched for them all day. And when they were in my hand, I didn't want them anymore. It was like me and God, it's like God showed me something, like, you don't need that. And I kept it in the drawer for a week. And then at the end of the week, I threw the drawer out. And I went around to everybody I knew. I walked up to cops in the restaurants I worked in, like, thank you for not arresting me that time. Thank you for, telling me I was enough. And I apologized to probably over 100 people and made my Facebook page public for probably the past 3 years to show people that you can do it and you can get the most with the least for the best. And to me, that's better than having it all.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's go back up a little bit, and I want to learn a little bit more about how long you were in addiction for, and what that was like for you, whether you were aware of who you were. Describe the sort of person you was and how you felt about yourself through that period.
I was an intravenous meth user. It didn't start out that way. It ended up that way. I was on the sex trafficked in Atlanta. I went with somebody I knew and somebody from an NA meeting, and we were supposed to go to a party, and I woke up tied to a chair being filmed. And the only reason why they even untied me is because they thought I died. I was thrown out on the side of Atlanta Highway in Newnan, Georgia, and was found by a friend I had called that had just tracked my phone through a pin I had sent. And I woke up in Piedmont Hospital having a rape kit done. And being told that where I was thrown out is where traffickers throw victims out when they're not good enough to sell, when they couldn't handle the torture or the drugs. It's a common place to be thrown out on the side of the road. I remember them seeing me in the parking lot and getting me in the trunk and throwing me out. And they wrapped me in like this black piece of cloth. And I remember walking to a gas station, and the construction people and everybody looked at me and just tucked up shop and left. And I begged for water and to use the phone to call my friend. And the next thing I remember, my friend Cody, who came all the way to get me from a pen in my phone, she said, your lips were blue. And all I remember was her throwing cold water on me and cussing out the gas station attendant. Like, it was like, get that dirty, junkie girl out of here. She's scaring off people. It's like she's dying. She was attacked. I remember my friend doing that. And then I woke up with her and more of my friends from Auburn. And I looked over and there were cops and they did the rape kit. And my friend Travis looked at me and said, are you tired of running? Are you going to start taking care of yourself? Because you want to help and fix so much, but we need you to get better. If you get better, that's the only way that your story's not going to end the way that you fear it is. Another statistic under, just washed, pushed aside. So that moment in the hospital, my friends helping me and being supportive, and, it didn't come easy. And sobriety for me was only hard after all of that when I did not want to work on me, when I was honestly still lying to myself and I had to come out of denial. And I'm still doing that at times.
Were you able to track down the people that did this to you? Was there ever justice served at all for what happened to you?
The only justice that was served is that one of them was put into federal on a trafficking charge. But the other two, I so much had happened that I did not have good enough descriptions of them.
Sure.
But I know the one person went to jail for some period of time and they're now deceased. That didn't make me feel any better. Like, I felt like the dude that helped tie me up, there was somebody that didn't hug him. There was somebody that hit him. And we just chose two different paths. So it was easy to forgive him.
Well, I don't think everybody could do that in your situation. So I admire your courage there. It sounds like you've got some great friends around you. Somebody gave you some great advice as well to try and pull yourself out, and you've listened to that. Was there some more difficult periods?
There was some more difficult periods. I lost another friend. That's when I first started having the miscarriages. After that, that caused some relapses, but not from the same place. And that's when I had to look inside of myself and be like, you're haunted and you're not a Ghostbuster. I had to look in the mirror and be like, you're haunted. Like, you have to work this out. You're not a Ghostbuster. It's when I started realizing that therapy needs me just as much as I need therapy. It needs honest people that aren't going to just take up sessions of, not willing to work on stuff. And there's different types of therapy for different type of people. But here in the South, it took me 10 years to find a decent place where I trust everybody in the office that I'm not being drug shamed or body shamed or shamed about, not pursuing the education that people think I should have. My life's been really hard, and I'm proud of what I've done with it because I have everything. My needs are my wants, and have become my needs. And that's success. You know, uh, and after that, I went from trying to work, not file for disability because I've had health problems most of my life, and you wouldn't be talking to me now if I didn't have the support of my church family, of my adopted family, and other my friends' families, and strangers that have totally helped me bounce back from being in a coma last year.
Are you comfortable talking about the miscarriages for a moment?
Yeah, I had one viable pregnancy. It was with the fiancé that eventually committed suicide on campus, and he talked me into an abortion, and I felt horrible. And every pregnancy after that, I blamed myself for a while, and I refused to go to the doctor about it. Like, this was something I did to myself. Then when I started getting health care and finding out that I had genetic, issues, and that it wasn't my fault, and that there were other ways to parent, to nurture. I had a really honest doctor sit down and tell me that, Emily, I don't know why you're stuck on putting your body through this, when if you get better in a lot of ways, you're going to be there for kids. Like, you're going to be getting CASA certified. You're going to be taking art classes. I see you with kids and you painting and teaching them to play guitar. And through that, this one doctor that didn't take advantage of my insurance for not having much of an education or family, it took a long time to find good doctors too. So you have to unplug that part of your brain too. That we go in for big help, but it's a practice too. Just like we're practicing on getting our shit together and getting our things right. So I had to be not so harsh on the medical industry and try to keep it evenly as possible. But that one doctor really, really, really did heal a lot of things in me. And from time to time, do I cry, when I hear of one of my friends in former addiction who's, gotten pregnant for the second or third time, and the baby had to be taken, and so it was born addicted. Do I get mad? Not anymore. I light a candle and I try to send a care package. I try to do what I can, or, work with people who can't have kids that, when I've had people in active addiction be like, well, you did so good of a job taking care of me when I didn't have myself together and you got clean. I'm pregnant. Here, do you want this kid? I can't do that, So I had some extreme things happen in addiction, being the responsible one, doing something that I didn't see other people doing around me. It made me a different kind of target. So I've learned over and over again about how to build the fortress of my forgiveness of myself and to others. And, to the medical field, we don't all have it figured out. We all want our cause to be heard. But the one thing that we all do have in common is that. And that's a beautiful thing. And I appreciate you taking the time to talk to people who have undertold stories. And they have been undertold their whole life and pushed back.
Was there a particular point that you feel like you're at your lowest?
April 1st of last year, a month or two before I agreed to try an antidepressant I had had problems with when my fiancé died, and my dad died. and I was willing to be put on it so I wouldn't have to do opiate treatment, so I could stay out of the opiate program as long as possible, being a former addict. This led to me reporting some problems I was having, and it led to me trying to kill myself. We're still determining whether it was intentional or not. I was missing gaps of time. It led to me waking up in ICU after being in a coma, and apparently I had taken all my medications and them metabolized. Nobody found me for like 25 minutes. And they gave me an option in ICU. The head of psychiatry came up and said, hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so. Sometimes we get a patient that we're astonished that they're even here. And we get some patients that have had acts of gods that are proven. And we have patients that have so many health problems and have went through things that, yes, you do have a lengthy list of mental diagnoses, but I will give you this. If you go to psych without a court order, just for further medical eval, or you can leave, but it will be against medical advice. So I went to psych. That is what's put the belly fire in me now. Without a court order, I was held in psych for almost 2 weeks. And now I built a whole new medical team out of the fact that I had to go to the medical board because my primary gave me 17 doctors and I was liver doctor and had put down that I had adverse serotonin and dopamine interactions to several antidepressants. So instead of getting bitter, I'm pushing for education and non-invasive, non-medication treatments. I'm going to start doing the transcranial magnetic treatments that work on the parts of your brain that have been damaged just through trying to make it through life. I'm working now with pain management, and, I want to work. I've always been a hard worker, but now I'm taking the steps to realize that I put a lot of hard work in, and so I'm applying for my SSI, and my phone's always open if anybody needs to call, if it keeps them from using or keeps them from, having an episode. And I constantly keep a board of like resources for the community, and my home is open for people to come and get resources. But it came back into my head, you have to heal. Like, you can't keep helping if you don't, heal. So when my liver fell in the ICU because of this drug interaction, now I want to spend the rest of my time figuring out, am I getting a new liver? If not, okay, what can I do with me now? Because that's who I am. I'm me filtered through the totality of my previous experiences. And I hope that I hope that somebody hears this or sees this and just that it makes them feel hugged and nurtured during times when they weren't.
Yeah, and I think that's powerful. I think you're inspirational, and I think this is what this is about: is to try and help other people that think there's no hope, and then they realize that there's other people that have been through a lot, like you have, and you still got a firm head on your shoulders, and you're still pushing forward. And so it's very admirable what you're doing. I want to talk a little bit more about that, because there are times when people feel like they're completely trodden to the ground.
Yeah.
And they feel like there's nothing else for them. And you touched on this, but where did you find the strength? Like you said that there was a part there where you kind of built your medical team and you turned things around. But what made you, there must have been something, a spark inside you, or enough's enough, or can you just walk us through some of those moments?
Yeah, it was like I had a moment where the past, present, and future met in a bar in my mind, and it was literally tense. You know, it was like tense. It was coming from all sides, and like, how was I going to get out of this? And the only thing I can say that helped with that was, sorry, it gets emotional, you know.
Yeah,
I,
take your time, of course.
that's when I feel like I'm talking about me, and I've never been one to wanted to make it about me. You know, that's when I feel like I'm being.
I think one way you could maybe try and summarize is just in that period. And again, I'm asking because I think that when people are feeling down and low and they think there's no hope, if there was anything that really triggered it for you, if there was a voice or a friend, or whether or not it was some spiritual support.
The spiritual support that I had in that was like, you've made it through this. You're amazing creation, and you are a creation that is evolving, and that these things will change, and you will change with them, and in the end, you will be the outcome. And this picture in my head of the infinity thing just showing like the cause and effect, and it just all being a simple choice of turning it into something that you get better about, you take it out on others, you don't want to help the world. And I just had to fill all those holes that other people like put into me. And it was like everybody took their swords out at once, and I could still stand.
Right.
You know, I see it in artistic types of things.
I like that. No, I can picture that. And so, was there any strategy?
Sorry, you're not starting over. We're not starting over, you know, for our 15th time with nothing. We're starting over with a lot of good experience that a lot of people won't listen to because it comes from people with what people say sketchy past. And that's why I love what you're doing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're letting the person that most people won't hear it from or give them the chance to talk about it because, you know, it's a stigma too in society, you know, that people like us have to help break.
Well, it's very easy to judge, right? So, and I don't
Yeah.
necessarily blame people for that feeling. It's just a defense mechanism if they don't understand something.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're familiar with that as well because you've experienced people that have supported you and people that have maybe turned their back on you. But
And I've had those feelings when I did work for myself where I felt like it was too much. So when I see that in somebody, I just want to love them and hug, you know.
well, that's really sweet. Yeah, you got a big heart. You got a big heart. So was there strategy attached to sort of getting yourself better? Was it medication? Was it was there a good support network? Like, talk to us about those early steps of kind of finding your stride of turning things around.
Accepting that my health was going to be complicated, and a lot of my 20s was going to go to researching physical therapy, and my 30s was going to go to surgeries and biopsies and more loss, and accepting parts of things that my body, you know, that I was going to lose. You know, when they told me that with the spinal issues that, you know, I needed to figure out a way to paint, I just came home and started painting blues and greens of this hand and the red and yellows of this hand. And I would drop stuff and start picking stuff up with my feet and just write really silly things on the guitar. You know, the things that you love, whether it's working on cars, whether it's doing the amazing work that you're doing with, you know, finding out what makes up the hero ratio. I think, like, when I read that, it gave me the warm feeling that, like, heroes don't, and I think with the world, the way the world is today, the heroes aren't going to look like what most people stereotypic, you know, I conquered it all. I can save everything with a cape, you know.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people. The irony, of course, is that for people that have been through so much, they have a unique perspective and they're able to maybe help certain people more than anyone else can. And that's the essence of why I want to talk to you about this, is
Yeah.
because the strength you're showing now, where a lot of people may have given up, you've chosen to put your foot forward and you're actually helping other people, and it's so admirable what you're doing. So as you started to rebuild, I'm sure it was kind of messy in different ways. Can you sort of talk to us about how that looked for you as you were building a better life, habits, decisions, things you had to let go of, things you wanted to try and learn?
Yeah. First, my vanity. Vanity comes in different waves. You get vanity about your looks. You don't feel good. I don't want to go out. I don't want people to see this face. The ego traps. I had to really get out of that. I clung to that. I felt like since I was doing good, I was starting to. That's when I realized the gift that God gave me, as I see him or her. Uh, I, for the first time, saw the pattern rolling out that had got me pulled back from all this good work, all these feats I had made it through. That was a big part of it. And I had a few people. I held this belly fire and it would always get me out of bed, but I finally went and looked the people in the face. I had 4 people after my fiance died, my dad died, after, the drugs and everything. Basically come up to me and say, well, Emily, you might not have went to college and, yeah, you can't have kids, but you have bad health problems. But I mean, sweetie, you're doing good just because you haven't killed yourself. And there's people that think like that, I've succeeded the most. I'm going to succeed. And those same people excused my crappy behavior when I wasn't being the best me. And I told them to their face that's them saying that to me hurt me. And that was more freeing than admitting a lot of things. Nobody can understand what they don't understand. So I had to be like, okay, don't lay into them, but I did have to hold their face in my hand and be like, look, I love you. And you said this to me at one time, and I just want you to just follow along or come out hiking with me once a month or once a year and see that is not how it has to be.
I think people were maybe judging you in your past, and so how did your identity shift for you to have to put your foot down with them? Like, can you describe how your identity shifted?
Well, when I stayed at home and was working in my step work and working on my health and my diet regimen and exercising and going to church, it's like I had all the most personal things happened to me in a small town in the South. Everybody here knows, what's happened to me. And everybody here has different opinions about it. It gets difficult to see the hope when you also can't get out of your hometown. Yeah. I ran from here and realized my 3rd time at the beach and I was still messing up. You've got to go back. If you move to the beach and you're still having these problems, stop running. So I just kept coming back to the root and just tapping the root of my hometown and forgiving people that I never thought I could. And that opening up things, learning when to keep my mouth shut was hard. Because I had this fire. It worked for me and nothing else worked for me. I never won anything off the radio. I moved around so much. I never got many certificates in school. I didn't have very many way to goes out of other people's sympathy, which is still help and is still appreciated. Right now, I'm struggling. The one thing I've always struggled with is the people who help me and give me advice, I still feel like their opinions matter to me. And I don't know if it's wrong to try to be part of the hero ratio and say that other people's opinions do matter to me, because it affects what they do, you know, and just letting everybody be accepted, and yeah.
I think it's natural to have different feelings towards people that you care for, or respecting in what they say to you.
Right.
Um, I
But
think that's natural.
and I'm
Yeah.
blessed to have it. So I've gotten more tolerant. I don't run from it. I don't recoil. To me, it's the universe showing me that person's right, and there's some other little box that Emily hasn't opened up or overlooked. So the people that come at me hard and I want to be defensive, I have to realize that if I'm even being defensive at this point in my life, at an opportunity to get a fresh outlook, therapy, help, or to be accepted more into the community without, I feel like I made such a big transformation, especially the last year with ICU, going to psych, all that stuff, that I'm glad now that I feel after all that when I go out that I don't have to explain as much. Like when coming out of a coma, every day's extra, and I don't pick things apart so much. It was hard for me to think about what to say in the podcast. And I was like, don't think about it. Like you lived it. Let it come through the way that it should.
That's the beauty of what we're doing, is we're just sort of talking it through, unguided, you know, and seeing what really comes naturally. But I can already tell you've got a lot of strengths, maybe that you didn't know you had.
Um, Now I'm being invited to play music, and the open mics and do stand up and to go to art, little pop up art things. And now I feel I can do it. And there's art from every part of my life. And I'm excited. And I couldn't take the questions 2 years ago about what everything meant. Now I just make a plaque, or something that says, hey, this is a trigger, but this beautiful painting came out of it. I want you to see. And the song, just no questions about it.
What
Uh,
what what strengths do you think you've gained through this process that you would never have had as a result of your experiences?
oh God, man, the 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 amazing job that I've done at stopping the self-sabotage. I mean, I would do it knowing I was doing it and go out and do 10 great things for people and not fit to do it because I put myself off, because I felt like all I was supposed to be was a servant under discrimination and falling through the cracks of society. But to rise above that and to know that if I wake up and I feel triggered, I can call my friend. I know if I wake up and have any issues, I will call my psych team for a session, emergency session. I'll call my sponsor. And that I do these things, and when they're done, I'm happy.
Imagine like the shoe was on the other foot for a moment, and your friend was on the side of the road, and you were able to track him down. And what advice would you give to the person that you found on the side of the road that day?
Get up one breath at a time. What do you need? Sometimes it takes, do you need silence? I would probably just hug him first,
Yeah.
and that kind of, especially and that sort of thing. I don't know, because when I've been in those situations, when somebody has bought me a burger or seen I was hungry, all I could do was cry. I was just so grateful. And a lot of people are embarrassed in those situations and think you're going to do what or call the cops or whatever. I just would just ask him what they needed and do it without judgment or a place of looking down upon anybody.
Let's talk about that. What is the misunderstanding there, do you think, for people looking at others that are struggling?
Because people aren't looking at others like they used to. It's like everybody can people aren't apps or they don't have preferences. We can't, meter out every inch of human existence because, we follow a bunch of stuff online or we're just going to be tied to these things that the TV feeds the mind. I feel like idleness, people being out of touch with really having to look up from their phones. As although technology is great, there's moments like this, there's great moments, there's great and horrific moments of every type of technology. If we never messed up, we wouldn't have known what to do, right? There's that saying where it's like, with technology, um, this is the generation growing up that's like starving for truth, but they're surrounded by knowledge. I think that has a lot to do with it. And I don't know how to break a stigma. I know what I would want to see, but I feel like it's selfish to put my opinion on it, to give that to somebody else. I just know that if you've ever been down and you have proved that rock bottoms had basement, just compassion will open the gates of indifference and a river of acceptance and self-acceptance will flow from there.
I think your opinions are pretty great, actually. So I think you might need to write a book or do some more with what you're doing because it's really powerful. What would you say to somebody right now that's listening and they think their story is over? What would you say to them?
Nah, that's like oxymoron washing powder with the power of an ox. You can put more on whatever you got to tell yourself to not accept that. It's that kind of stuff. It's that weird thing our brain does where it's like, no, you're not locked in a room in your head. You can see the trees, you can drive, you can wear what you want, you can listen to your music as loud as you want to, you can go and get and make your favorite thing for dinner. But it's still that one little thing that has to open up to where you're confident and moving through a society that, is seemingly time traveling around you, on phones, driving different speeds. And if you're trying to take in the beauty of it after you've had the beauty knocked out of you, it just takes one small thing to be sure of.
But I just wonder if there's anything you could say that would be good advice based on what you've been through.
That love is the way. Love is the way. Love and acceptance within yourself. It's like Dr. Seuss is right. Sometimes there's an ability to see yourself in only a way that you can, and that's through the spirit. It's like seeing everything by looking through the wrong end of a telescope and it coming out to scale. And that the human body is a brilliant machine, but you have to move it. You've got to pray or to wish, like it depends on the cosmos or God as you see it, but you have to move like it depends on you.
Do you think there's more resilience, there's more positivity in the world that we're led to believe?
Oh, surely, or I wouldn't have tried so damn hard to make it. Yeah, there are, but I think any good hero has been scared, and my love of comic books and lore, a lot of the people that get a great job put upon them say, I can't do this. I'm not ready. I'm not worthy. You are worthy and you're more prepared than you know. And if a few more people can get up out of the shadows and not, like I told somebody yesterday that I could have been a supervillain. It was a choice. It was a choice, yeah. So, yeah, and and keep it light because it's heavy enough.
That's good.
Keep it light.
Let's talk a little bit more about your future and what you're excited about and some of the fun things that are coming up for you.
I'm excited for the first time in my life. I haven't over micromanaged everything to death. I don't know what's going to happen for me. I know that my friend has been talking to me about, he pushes me about me writing a book about my life. And I have such bad grammar and after many strokes and a lot of my health problems. I like to have, is that what a ghostwriter is? A person that helps you write your, yeah, I like to like talk with a ghostwriter. I, I want to just start going out and I've been taking more pictures. I want to play music more. I just want to be able to show the world besides the wisdom and people, tell me, that I have. I want to be able to show them what they can do with it.
That's fantastic. And I can help you on the writing side. There's some incredible tools now that can help you regardless of your grammar.
Yeah,
As long as you've got the ability to.
I mean, that would be amazing. I feel like it's worth it to get my story out there. And I just didn't, it matters how you make your calls look. And I had to learn a lot of emotional regulation that way. But while I was learning that, I just knew that if I told my story and I meant it, that my prayers, some of them may come true in the aspect of having help to tell it. That way I don't have to keep retelling it. It won't always be something I have to do to you. I mean, I'll be my testimony and I'll talk to anybody. But if I could write it down, and just hug them and sign things and make them art and travel, I want to travel. My sicknesses have kept me for some great people that I've never met that have bought my art from this one church in Oregon, and they supported me when my family wouldn't, and they bought my art, and they absolutely loved me to death.
I think you define the fact that you can make dreams happen and you can turn things around. So for one, I'm confident that you can put a book together. And again, I can help with that in the sense that all you really need is some AI tools to get you going. That's number one. And then let's talk about your art. What's your plan for your art? Are you selling it? Can we help you share what you're doing?
I really want my art to be out there, and I would like it. Some of the stuff, my writing, the sculptures, the music, that kind of stuff. I used to feel like I was cheating with my analog art when the digital wave came along. And I realized that it's something that's very useful and you can combine the two and do some pretty cool stuff.
You've been an inspiration to chat to. You're a unique soul that's been through a lot, and just keep up the great work. I think your story can really move mountains, and I think it deserves to be told, and that's the reason we're sitting here. So thanks so much for sharing this, and thank you so much for joining me.
No problem. Anytime. Thank you.